All right, welcome to Imperial Advisor episode 10, and we are. The game has been launched. Hooray! Well,
Kind
is
of.
it kind of? Does it count as a launch now? It's
No, I don't have it, so it doesn't count. That's all that matters to me.
Owen has got a new icon beside his name, and is is styling it out Hatamoto style. Congrats to Owen. So, Owen and Justin were both there. Justin came pretty close from what I understand, and we'll go into that. Oh, he's shaking his head. And Owen made Hatamoto first day, and so congrats to Owen. He has now got a little icon beside his name. You must be very proud.
I am really.
You should be.
Oh no,
You should be.
the thing is, there's a massive dollop of luck to getting Hatamoto at that event. You needed to basically play reasonably well, know the card pool a little bit, and then you needed to not hit a couple of the banana skins that are in the single core format. So if you got hit by an early clan champion, you didn't have much of an answer, you were in trouble. If you hit a couple of turns of great non-uniques like grey people like Seppin guardsmen and stuff in a row, you're in trouble. And I managed to avoid that on the Thursday, so that was the main factor in winning.
Yeah. So I mean, let's go straight into it and maybe pick up that topic, because I'm kind of curious about something I noticed just following online was that pretty on this what I was like at the second day, there's a lot of Hatamoto in that sort of top 32, and it sort of gave the impression that clearly, the people who had done well the first day were doing well the second day. Just lost a second, and it's back. And I guess that in some ways that's encouraging, because it seems like the people who are good are coming to the top consistently, and that's always a sign of a game that's kind of well balanced in a lot of ways. And we talked a lot about, in the past, about the randomness of single core, and how much of a factor do you think that was? Justin, what was your perspective on that?
Yeah, well, both can be true. There were definitely skills, but yeah, I mean, skill absolutely plays a significant factor in the game, but there are some things that are outside your control. Again, like Owen said, the early champions, the Seppin wall, where you flip nothing but Seppin guardsmen and hold a turn or two, and sometimes if your conflict hand is well set up, you can play around that, but sometimes you just can't, and you're just gonna lose to that. But for all that, skill absolutely plays a factor. There are so many decision points throughout the game that it's very, very easy, if you make a couple of suboptimal choices, that the game can easily get can go beyond your reach. But both things are true. Skill absolutely a factor, but there are some definite there's just some variance issues that you can run afoul of. And so it's the environment overall is not that exciting, as you'd expect. Dynasty decks basically are pre-constructed conflict decks. There are maybe 5 real choices, if even, and not even that for some decks. So I think it's going to be, basically once we hit 3 core, then that's when we're going to start to see, obviously we're going to see the game for what it really is. But yeah, it's the single core environment is, absolutely skill based, but with some, but as Owen said, it has some banana skins.
Yeah.
So there we go. Yeah.
So having been done with it, you're looking forward to more single core environment then, yeah?
I am certainly looking forward to getting the single core format over and done with. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, we've got, I suppose there's London this weekend, then there's the launch tournaments. And after that, I don't think I will cast a backwards glance at single core.
And so, just sort of taking a step back, what was the overall experience like? Obviously, hundreds of L5 players together in one place. There was, I saw some videos of the parade and the Uts Banzais, and how was kind of just the overall experience of attending Gen Con for you, Eoin?
It was excellent. From a pageantry and kind of relaunch of the game, was a tremendous. It was tremendous from that point of view. They had some very authentic looking, very, very, I would say, incredibly warm cosplayers or actors to come out in a set of kind of clan appropriate armor and iconography and go down through the tournament for the start. And it was very, very, very warm that day, and those poor people were suffering for it. So they suffered for their art there. And you had the bonsais, which were thunderous, and you get to look around, and there were tons of people there, old friends, people you'd known before, people you hadn't seen in years, all getting back together for war. So it was fabulous from that point of view. Really, really excellent.
Justin, for you?
Yeah, much the same. The samurai were actually, with the costumes they wore, were pretty stunning. Actually, very characterful. A lot of work and thought into their costumes. There was a taiko. Well, there were two taiko drummers leading it. One man, one woman, who were both, seemed super serious until basically the parade were finished, or was arrived at the head of the hall. But Steve Horvath was, doing his speech. The male taiko drummer was, breaking into huge beaming smiles. They really got into the band's eyes. It was fantastic, and just the scale. So there were 700 people at the tournament. I think there were somewhere in the region of 100 or 120 people who came with generic tickets trying to get in. A few did, most didn't. So we kind of worried at the start there might be an awful lot of people who would simply take their product and go, and that just wasn't the case. There were, there was 650, 680 people who were there just to play, which was stunning. So I don't know if they'd had room and if they'd, and time to market, they probably could have broken 1,000 people easily with that tournament. The band's eyes were astonishing. They reverberated up and down. Like the hall must have been a couple of acres in size, probably.
It's huge, yeah.
From one end to the other, it's absolutely enormous, and you could hear the band's eyes reverberating down off the far wall and come back up again, the entire length of this enormous hall. It was pretty stunning. So yeah, and as Eoin said, just playing with friends again. Playing Five Rings with friends again, and seeing so many new faces as well, or faces that we didn't recognize, or you wouldn't recognize from old 5R. And as well as that, just walking in the streets outside Gen Con, there would be people you would never seen or never met before. It's like an old Five Rings player just talking about Five Rings. So being part of a hugely popular game was a novel experience. Yeah.
Used to sitting on the fridges.
But overall, it was fantastic. It was kind of overwhelming in a lot of ways. There were some definite feels throughout the weekend. But again, mainly just getting back together with old friends and making new ones. That was the biggest and best part of it, as it always has been. So,
and
it was awesome.
The tournament itself, the initial first tournament, we obviously talked a little bit before about the format and the scale and how they were going to manage that. How did that sort of work in practice? Do you want to take that?
So they were faced with a huge challenge there. Just registering 700 people is a huge pain. So for the first one, what they did was they gave everybody a wristband with a number on it. And that was your ID for the tournament. So I think I was Ivory 210 and so on. And basically those, they had everything preset that way. So that was your identifier. You weren't registered as Owen Burke or whatever. You were registered as Ivory 210. And you played against, I think, usually you ended up playing against someone from the other strand of the tournament. The gold strand, so there's ivory and gold, and that was based on the color of your wristband. So that was the way they managed the initial entry. The first set of pairings were a little confused because we all went up looking for our names, and instead it's numbers. But once that was figured out, it was like, grand, we go by number then, and we know roughly which number we are, so we can go up to the appropriate stand and look it out. Because 700 people having to find their position in a sea of tables is, a significant amount of work as well. So that was good. What they struggled a little bit with was the end of round sequence, because everyone had just started playing for the first time, and some people were actually playing their first game at the tournament. A lot of games went to time. Now, prior to the start of the event, they announced the first iteration of their tiebreaker system, which was 2 points per province destroyed, 2 points for being ahead on honor, and 1 point for the favor. And that was kind of their decision tree at the end of the game. However, the problem was they said, finish your turn and then apply that. Now, if you're playing X-Wing or Star Wars Destiny or most of their other games, finishing a turn wouldn't be an issue. But in L5R, a turn can easily be 20 minutes. And if the turn is going to decide the game, it could easily be 25, 30 minutes. So what happened was, in the interests of them being, trying to give everyone a fair shot at letting everyone play in the tournament, let everyone having fun in the tournament, that meant that the round after it was done, after about an hour, because the first rounds were extended a little bit to account for people playing for the first time, and then that gradually chopped off as time went on. They had generally another 20 to 30 minutes before all the results came in. And that was a big organizational challenge, because that meant that they couldn't tell you when the round was actually going to be finished and the next round paired,
Yeah. Justin, how is the sort of logistics from your perspective? I mean, I heard stories that
again,
it was sort of 11-ish hours to run the tournament, something like that, for the 5 rounds.
Yeah, it took an awfully long time. As Eoin is saying, the end of round sequence was a problem. I mean, obviously this is the first time that they're running a tournament, and the first time you're running a 5 rings tournament, you don't really want to be running a 700 player 5 rings tournament. So it was just, I think it was just, a confluence of a couple of different factors. The newness of it, not having really probably run through their tournament or their tiebreak system before this, at least on anything like the scale. And because of that, you had just significant delays between each round. But that's something that can easily be fixed. And as tournaments go on, and as they refine their how they run tournaments, I'm sure that's going to come down significantly. But when you've got a game, as Owen was saying, where turns can literally take 25 minutes, finishing your turn is it can the pile up, and there were a lot of very, very tired people by the end of it.
Yeah, I bet. And did many of your games go to time?
A few of them did. Yeah, I had a couple of games on tie breaks, probably about 3 or 4, I would say, over the course of a week. Although that said, in fairness, there were no games where time was called and the outcome wasn't clear one way or the other. Right. So, yeah, I don't think I was really involved in any of those in those long delays. But yeah, I did go to time a few times. But that is going to happen in 5 rings games. Yeah. Some of them end quickly, but in tight games they really can drag out. Drag out is probably the wrong word, but they can go if they go on over a course of several turns, like many turns, which can happen sometimes. Then getting a resolution can be difficult. So the tiebreak system is probably necessary, but also needs refining, as does the tiebreak system at the end. In terms of just making it quicker to resolve. So. Yeah,
Owen, what did you think of the tiebreak system in itself? Do you think it's kind of to work out relatively fair? Do you think it's sort of going to need a bit of work, beyond this, if they want to use that same sort of system?
it needs to be resolved a lot faster because, okay, so there's nothing inherently wrong with having a tiebreaker system. The problem is that the tiebreaker system they're using in combination with finishing the turn means that at a certain point in the game, gears shift and it's about winning the tiebreaker system rather than winning the game. And like that's a factor. Like it represents how far ahead you are in a lot of ways because it's how many provinces have you smashed, who's got more honor, who has the favor. It does represent board advantage. But the problem is that you then, if you're like, for example, if you're facing the clock and you notice that there's 5 minutes left just before the start of the round, at the end of the round, you're like, wow, if I grab the favor this round, I win. And that kind of shifts the experience a bit. And finishing the turn is the real killer on it. And that's, if it was when time is called, that's it, apply tiebreakers. That would be unfair as well, because someone could be like, well, actually, I had one conflict and you had 0. So I think I'm ahead for this. And that's cool. And when time is called, and now, cool, I win. Finishing the second making sure everyone's at the same number of conflicts is one time finish option. Another option is a bit more brutal, which is to say, right, time is called, you have 5 minutes to report, and let the players sort it out between themselves. And by the way, no one's allowed to roll a dice. You could do it that way, which would put a different set of stresses on the game and a different set of stresses on the player base. You have a couple of different options. I mean, it's probably worth at some point trying to tease out a couple of different ones that you might choose, you might investigate, but it's hard.
Yeah.
There's no perfect answer.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
you're always picking your poison when it comes to resolving games outside the actual rules in terms of the games itself. So yeah, it is a case of just picking your poison. But certainly from a logistics point of view, I think what Owen was saying about the 5 minutes for players to resolve may ultimately be the best solution. Because certainly there were 1 or 2 games. Well, there was certainly one game I was involved in, and a couple of games I was beside. When they did go to time, where both players just resolved the game as basically took a more holistic view of the game as opposed to just simply the tiebreakers, and were able to resolve and work out the game immediately. And they did that quite spontaneously and without any bad feeling on any side. So that might be something that works. Certainly, logistically, that would be the best answer, because that means you would then have single-hour rounds. You can run you can run 50-minute rounds, have a 5-minute decision process, and then you've got 5 minutes for processing and putting up pairings after that. And that means you can just hit an hour and get a tournament run quickly and efficiently. But that's going to be something for FFG to investigate and look into.
Yeah, so they did kind of incorporate that into the second day when they made the decision to allow the players to evaluate the board and make a concession if they want to. I think if you have a 5-minute situation, you're always going to have that issue where for some players it's going to take them 3 minutes to decide exactly how to assign their conflict, which, when you're down to the wire and it's just 5 minutes can be a real problem. But yeah, I think what's been said, that there may be no actual proper solution, and good luck to FFG.
Fair enough. And in terms of just people, obviously a lot of people playing it the first time, just getting the rules and being able, were people able to play fairly independently, or was there a sort of pretty hefty load placed on judges? Owen?
The number of
Sorry.
The judges did say that they were fairly inundated with questions in the first couple of rounds, but those questions tailed off very, very quickly. And by the final rounds, there was hardly anything being asked. So I think there was just an initial load, and after that, the game rules themselves fairly simple. So I think after people got their head around what the rules were, that was it. The rest took care of itself.
Yeah.
There were a few nuances missed. I won 3 games because I went, you're on 2 honor and you've bowed out, you've got 1 guy left to defend. Attack, air political or air military, and someone's like, defend. I read the guy home, and then he just moved back in and goes, okay, pass. And I'm like, okay. So you lose I take an honor off you for air, and you didn't defend, so you lose another honor. And they're like, oh, you lose an honor for not defending? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, oh, sad face. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that class thing when you're new to a game of like your just brain doesn't take enough of those shortcuts. They aren't sort of built in yet, and you may know the rule, but you're just like trying to hold too much in your head at one time. So Baz, what was the experience like for you? I know we watched a couple of the games together the first day. As a spectator from afar, what was your experience like?
It was better than I was expecting it was going to be. I was a little disappointed that FFG didn't go further out. They said that they were going to stream some stuff, and some stuff did get streamed. So the opening event was live streamed. Then Team Covenant also did the FFG L5R talk, which was good, and they also did the FFG State of the Union kind of address. But after that, there wasn't so much official. I know Team Covenant isn't properly official, but they've got good connections. But we were really blessed with Dodge Pong and the Call-Out Informants, who both ran streams on different tables, so you're able to kind of bounce between them and see what was going on. And it was a lot of fun, kind of when we were sitting around chatting and watching the games going on, because the games were being played and we were seeing it happening live, but there was no commentary, so we were kind of having to add that little bit of an element to ourselves. Some of it was quite confusing, I have to admit, because you're with a bit of glare on the screen, you're not always quite sure what's going on. But yeah, I have to admit I really enjoyed just looking at the games, and once people start getting those games up properly and putting in all the special effects and people talking over it, I know I'll be watching them, because the game is enjoyable to observe as well as play.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then what sort of was the balance of factions like? What was it balanced in general, or did you see there was a couple of real standouts clans that a lot of people were playing more so than others? Justin?
Dragon was the big winner. Always one of the most popular clans, and that was represented, I think, both by the Dragon winning the Emperor's favor, and also the number of Hatamotos. I think the Dragon put up by far the highest number.
I think they got 8.
And that,
Yeah, it was 8.
I think it was 8. Yeah, I think it was 8. And when you take a look at the Dragon's card set, their card set is extremely well rounded. They have good cards that don't require a huge amount of clever play to get the most out of them. They they hit the table and they do efficient things. It may be harder for them in constructed, or like in 3-core constructed, where you have the slightly more esoteric tactics into it and are actually playable. Whereas when you're dealing with a single core meta, you're almost dealing with a limited format, like a limited CCG format. And in those formats, like if you do certain things very well, you're going to succeed. And the Dragons certainly do they do the basics of the game extraordinarily well. Certainly they have one of the best champions. A selection of great fake cards that really cover all the bases. So I think they were, and also some really good players. There were some really good Dragon players there. So they really took it. I think the other factions that really impressed were Scorpion were very, very strong. Phoenix were also strong. Lion had a couple of really good players playing. But I think really it was Dragon, Phoenix, and Scorpions to me seems the overall strongest, with Unicorn being the only weak clan.
Yeah. But
that said, someone did take Unicorn 4-1 on the Thursday and 6-1 on the Friday tournament. So
I think that might have actually been Dodge Pong.
There's definitely
there were 3, as far as I'm aware, at least 3 Unicorn players who made it to 4-1 and then just lost out in that final round on the first day. So but I think it's telling that the Dragon and the Phoenix, who both did quite well, are pretty well rounded in both military and political, so they can threaten those two provinces and they can take the conflict they need to. Whereas Unicorn, even more so than Lion, is heavily focused on military. And I guess once after their tricks were out, they didn't really have much more. They didn't have those three. What was that? The card that switches.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. That switches the conflict
Captive audience.
Yeah,
captive audience. Yeah.
And
so well is so many of their things use a cavalry guy, so they really suffer from getting the generics, the flood of generics. That is like, well, my box isn't doing a lot, and a load of my cards aren't doing much. And they've got a couple of like cavalry reserves is going to be a monster in constructed, and it's pretty good in single core. But they suffered from that a lot, and you could see that even in the numbers of people who are playing Unicorn, and because they just had less people there, and if you've got less people there, you're going to have less chance of getting Hatamoto just innately.
Yeah, and a similar note, Eoin, were there particular clans that were noticeably more popular to be splashing into your conflict deck?
Dragon were splashed all over the place. Muramoto's Fury is a huge card. Let Go is a huge card. Their conflict monk who gives it can be attached to give covert all over the shop. I would say the Dragon were probably the most popular splash, just because they had a very, very, very flexible set of cards to splash with. Yeah. So they were all over the shop.
Yeah, I'd say Scorpion was probably, certainly from what I saw, was the second most popular splash. And it's really interesting when you compare the Scorpion cards with the Dragon cards. There's a significant amount of crossover in what they achieve, because you have. So they both have a covert giving fake card. They both have essentially recyclable attachments or personalities. So you've got the Shinobi in Scorpion that you can bring back to your hand for 1 honor, and you've got the Court Mask, which you can return to your hand, which are analogs for Kitsuki's Method and Ancestral Dice Show. So basically where it differs is that the Scorpion have the Edict, the counterspell, in place of Muramoto's Fury. So I would say that the power level of the Scorpion cards... Oh, sorry, and of course you've got Let Go for the Dragon Clan, and then you've got the... I've forgotten the name of it, but the basically attachment stealing card for Scorpion. So when you take a look at the cards, they both actually achieve quite similar things. The Muramoto's Fury is probably an overall better card than Broken Edict, but the Scorpion power level on the other cards is maybe slightly higher in a couple of places. So it's more kind of picking a flavor of what you want to do. But those cards, those card sets achieve broadly the same kind of things. So that was kind of interesting, at least to see. So but Dragon Splash were everywhere.
Interesting. And lost my notes. So going into the Hatamoto stuff, how did that play out for you, Eoin? What was kind of the process, and then into the sort of decision making? Take us to the room.
So, well, at that stage, it was pretty late, and that was one of the unfortunate things, that both the Hatamoto assignments were kind of happening very much at the end of the tournament, and usually slightly past midnight or just before midnight. So a lot of people had to go home at that stage, or gone to get some eat or whatever else at that point. So there were still a hardcore group of people there, and the Hatamotos. And what it did was they checked our records, they awarded us the Hatamoto status, they had each of us stand beside our relevant clan banners, they handed out the playmats, they then said, okay, you've got a choice to make, and they took us through the choice, and then they put us basically in a big circle and asked us to each say a few words on Thursday in support or against Meishido. And it was weighted pretty heavily towards letting the Unicorn go to work. So that's what we ended up thinking. I did ask initially, could all the Unicorn Hatamoto step forward and make their case, which was kind of funny, but also a little cool.
And I heard from I think it was the Art of Warcast guys that a lot of people sort of made their case in character. They sort of got into the role.
Everyone did. Everyone was like, in character, here's what I think. You know? Which could be a little bit tricky for some of that, because there weren't just American players there. There were a couple of players from elsewhere in the world, from Iceland or Spain or wherever else, who are, kind of going, okay, let me just try and explain this, what I think, So yeah, it was good. It was great. And it was interesting because we got to make the choice, and it was really cool. It was there, to have a think and go, okay, well, what are we going to do? Because in the tournament yourself, you're kind of going, okay, I really want to go 5-0, and you're focusing on that. And all of a sudden, like, oh yes, I do have to make a choice. What is my choice? So yeah, it was interesting.
And Justin, how did you finish 4-1 that day? Is that correct?
Yeah.
At what point did you take your loss? Was it
round 3? I got Yukuni assassinated. It was the 1-2 combo that you don't really recover from. So that I hit one of the banana skins that you can hit. So but that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, that said, there was I got to play some of the best games, or some of the most enjoyable, intense games of cards that I have played, in my entire life on that day. Yeah. I think in the second round I was playing a Scorpion player, and at the end of turn 2 I was down 3 provinces to 0. And I managed to pull that game back. So more than most games, it's actually possible to make huge comebacks in 5 rings, or at least in single core anyway. We'll see how it goes with constructed. But that went the other way as well. Like there was a game that I was massively ahead in, and then my dynasty, I just hit the Seppin wall, where it was just like Seppin guy, holding for 2 turns straight, and the game just fell apart from there. So it's I mean, there were some I had some great games, some absolutely great games, both winning and losing.
Yeah.
So.
Which
is pretty rare, because normally I really hate losing, and I'm normally not at all happy about losing. But a lot of the games, like in fact, I think I lost 4 in total over the 2 days. But really, I can't feel bitter or upset about any of them. They were just despite getting crushed in a couple of them, it was still really, really enjoyable. It was just that the games were always involving, and I think that's one of the great strengths of 5 rings, is that because there is so much to think about and so much to do, that you're always involved in the game. And because the increments the increments that you advance toward victory are so generally actually pretty small. You always feel like you're just about in it. It's very, very rare. I mean, I think even Baz, like the test games we've had, and we played quite a few, there were really only 2 games in total which were complete blowouts on either side, and they were hilarious blowouts, in fairness.
I tried my best to ready you with a Yukuni assassination start, but you just didn't learn any lessons.
No, I really didn't.
That second day was like 7 rounds, and it's on the tail end of another day that was basically 12 hours. Like when you're going into that 6th and 7th round, and in a game like this current version of Alpha 4, which is very decision heavy, that really must have worn you down, I would have thought. Like how did you feel going into that 7th round? Were you still up to speed to make decisions, or were you just fit to fall over?
Do you even remember both, actually? No, I do remember them. I was definitely aware that I was very, very tired and could very well be in the kind of condition where I would simply not see obvious things on the board, and I was definitely concerned about that. But to be honest, I mean, but at that stage, I was more or less on autopilot. Even getting over there, I'd had 4 hours sleep, and then I was up for 28 hours straight traveling over to get another 4 hours sleep to get up, and then basically go through a 21-hour day, and then get 4 hours sleep, and then get up again and play in another full tournament, which went on for God knows how many hours. So yeah, no, but definitely on fumes. Like I crashed hard on the Saturday, and I was thinking, I feel a little tired. I'll just put my, and I was out for about 12 hours on Saturday night. But no, I mean, even going into those rounds, yeah, I definitely felt, yeah, I'm tired and I could be missing all kinds of things and wouldn't realize it. But at the same time, I was really enjoying it, and still trying to win. So,
okay,
that
sounds good.
My deep insecurities just carried me on, not to victory, but they did carry me.
And Owen, I understand the second day you set out, but played the hero's role of keeping Justin and John and the guys fed and watered.
So I said, right, I'll start playing at least because the prize support was good. And I said, right, I'm going to start playing and I'll see how I feel after a few games. And round one, I got matched up with Justin, who beat me handily. And I was like, okay, cool.
I wouldn't say handily, but you know. That's it. Like you traveled 3,000 miles just to play someone you came over with.
Yeah. I was thinking about that game later, and I think that game actually illustrates a great ability in how to come back in the game. And I know what I should have done in that game now. That basically I had kind of 12 fate going into it, I think turn 2 and 3. And I was okay, I'd really like to finish this game now because I had you on the back foot a little bit. And I flipped
absolutely.
a bunch of Imperials, and I was like, ugh. And I forced it by blowing a bunch of fate, but didn't finish it. And the next turn, when I only had 7 fate, I flipped all of my guys that I wanted the previous turn, and I wasn't able to capitalize in the same way because one of the things in the format is that a lot of times the Earth province is sitting. That's what your opponent's stronghold is sitting on, and you need to be able to really hammer them to finish that one because you need to basically often beat them by 10 or 12 in military to get through there. And against Phoenix, I'm not going to beat Phoenix in politics or crab. So it was very important for me to go, right, actually what I should have done is taken a turn where I actually kind of get beaten around a bit by Justin, let Justin back into the game a little bit in order to close him out the turn when I get a big flip, which is what I should have played for, and I didn't. And
had you got him down to that last province?
Yeah, well, no, what I did was that turn I forced it by spending a bunch of extra resources to smash his third province. What I should have is taken a lot handier, broken the third province, maybe that turn, maybe the turn after, and then had a big force waiting to squash the final one. And what was the problem was going, well, I've got to beat him by 12 in military. I'm like, that's really difficult. I had Casada and I had one other guy, but what I should have done is husband my resources. So I had Casada and a Berserker and a Hida Defender to go in with, and that would have been much more difficult for Justin to block.
Yeah.
And I should have done it like that. And that's what I did wrong with it. And I was reflecting on that later and kind of went, yeah, that was the bit you have to realize sometimes in the game you have to go, I'm ahead. I can't be obsessed with staying ahead. I have to now take the fact that I'm ahead to build up resources for a later turn where I can actually capitalize on all the fate that I had. I ended up throwing fate away because I was just trying to get the province cracked. Whereas I should have done was say, no, don't do it this turn. It's fine. Build up another stock of fate and go again.
Yeah, it kind of adds a new element to tempo. I mean, everyone has always been obsessed with using your resources fully on your turn and getting everything out of it. But I guess with the new game, because fate carries over from turn to turn, you do have the opportunity to kind of play it slightly different. That's interesting. It's actually really nice that you're able to look at your game and find a lesson out of it, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the things that hit home with me as well is that the traditional pillars of card game resource management do not apply to this game at all. They really, really don't. You have to. I mean, again, you look when you're looking at your characters. I mean, again, going back to the whole fact that the increments by which you win or lose the game are generally quite small. So it's not like most other card games where if you start losing, the game can suddenly snowball horrifically. There's just simply no way game. In 5 Rings, there is almost always a way back into the game, almost always. But yeah, I mean, because your personalities are going to go away anyway, we certainly, I found that by the end of the weekend, I was placing significantly less value on my personalities. I was placing a lot more value on my conflict hand, I think I certainly at least at this stage of my my development in this game, you know, I've found that I've been overvaluing personalities, undervaluing conflict cards. And there is a like, again, as Owen was saying, there's a very distinct ebb and flow to the game, and being aware when you are about to overextend yourself in a way. I mean, yeah, you can overextend yourself in ways that are not at all obvious. Not at all obvious. I mean, you know, the automatic kind of CCG engine in your head will just be saying you should be doing this now because this is how it works in every other game. Which is like Owen was saying, just you bring stuff out and you constantly push your advantage. That's a huge mistake in this game. You have to be able to read it at a very different level. And yeah, it's just one of the things. Like, I mean, I did the exact same thing that Owen did several times. There were several games, including like a couple of games that I lost, where I just pushed too hard for something that really wasn't actually valuable. But every single kind of built-in shortcut in my head was just saying, you need to do this now, so you should do this now, and you know, I would automatically do this action, and then, you know, you do it, you get it over and done with. You look at the board and go, that was a terrible mistake, but it's not obvious. It's not obvious beforehand. So there are some really unique, there's some really unique qualities to how you manage your resources in this game. Which I think is still a huge area to be investigated, certainly for me personally. So.
Are there any quick bullet point learnings you can give to the audience?
Yeah.
No.
My first.
Okay, well, Owen can.
Yeah. My first 4 games on Thursday went as follows. I bid 1 honor. My opponent bid 5.
Yeah,
I put 1 fate on a 2-cost personality. They played assassination. And I at that point nearly put down in my hand and said, you are now on 3 honor. How do you think this story ends? And that was kind of it. Like, so many people were like, I'm going to bid 5, turn 1. Let's see what happens. They gave me 4 honor. They're on 6 or 7. And then they went, right, I'll spend another 3. And then they're like, I'll spend 1 for a bonsai. And I'm like, if you don't defend all of my conflicts, you lose an honor. If you don't stop me getting air, you lose an honor. If you don't stop me getting fire, you lose an honor. And that basically, I had a game where the 3rd round, I think my opponent had me on, crushed 3 of my provinces, went in, attacked my province. So it was politics, he bounced, and I was like, okay, cool, you're on 2 honor? Excellent. And I won from there, you know? And just because you're going, well, I've got monster board position, I've got so many more cards in hand than my opponent. Every one of those cards came at a cost. And if you're spending incautiously, you just get yourself into trouble really, really quickly. And I found that the Dishonorish playstyle was very, very strong in single core. It was very, very strong.
And is that because the crab have some dishonor options, or is it just because people were being really silly with their own honor losses?
People were being very aggressive with their honor loss. Like, Assassination is probably the best card in that format. It's got huge ability to turn it, to basically hit a guy, because the majority of your people are 2-cost. Its ability to target down and hit a guy who's possibly been given a bonsai or a crucial attachment or something to get big, and if you just go, oh, well, I could just save my province by playing Assassination right now. And they often do. But it's like, okay, cool, you lost 3 honor. And if I'm pressing your honor already, that's massive. And Bonsai is a huge card in the format as well, and that costs an honor. So people kind of frittered through their honor, and then at the end of the game are like, ooh, I better start trying to gain honor again. And it's like, okay, cool. It's a bit late, to be honest, you know? So, yeah, I got a huge amount of mileage out of that, at least initially. And then people started calming down a little bit in the later rounds. They started, hold on, we should probably not just blindly bid 5. You're playing against Crab or Scorpion, because you're in danger of just getting blown out.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was interesting to watch the meta game, like how the game was played, develop over the 2 days. Because, like Owen was saying, on the first day, people were bidding 5 right, left, and center. And on the second day, it was very, very rare to see someone bid 5. A lot of people were down to bidding 2 and 3 at the most, sometimes 1 as well, going when on the first turn. So it was, yes, I mean, the game is developing already. and how it's played is developing already, even over the course of just 2 days playing.
It's interesting. A lot of what you're saying reminds you of, I think it was the very first Team Confident video with the designers, and they talk about, knowing what your advantages are at any given time and how those, how you sort of pivot those. So you might go from card advantage to personality advantage to fate advantage to honor advantage, and kind of understanding that, it's not just guys on the board and cards in hand, or, money in the bank. That you need to sort of see the big picture and understand where your edge is at any given time, and where your opponent's is. And so you guys are all coming to London next week. What are building? So I guess a little bit like Baz's question about lessons learned. What will you be looking at for when you sit down with Gencon under your belt, Justin? Are there particular cards that sort of you've changed your view on a bit, or particular sort of tactics?
Oh yeah, wow. Yeah, there were so many cards that I was so completely wrong about.
Not just for Greater Glory.
The real standouts. I didn't play against For Greater Glory all weekend, so I can't speak to that. At least I didn't face it. In the Phoenix cards and among the unaligned cards, the card a card I completely underestimated was Fearsome Mystic. That card was MVP in so many games. It has such a destructive effect on your opponent's ability to maintain a board presence, and like Five Rings is very much a board control game. Again, one of the things one of the kind of realizations, strong word, but certainly one of the feelings I have after Gencon is that rings are far more important than provinces. Provinces are really an afterthought. You're playing primarily board control. If you get board control, then the rest of the game will follow. But if you don't have board control, it doesn't matter if you've smashed 3 or 4 of your opponent's provinces. Or, well, 3 at any rate. Yeah, you can easily lose from that position. But the Fearsome Mystic flat won me, I think, 3 games just on her own. There was one game against a crab. I felt so bad. I had similar to like one of the things actually in single core that can happen is that you have a ropey turns and you end up with an absolute mountain of fate. So I think I went into one with 14, 15 fate or something like that. Fearsome Mystic turned up, and I was able to buy a Fearsome Mystic with 3 fate on her. And yeah, a couple of turns later, I was playing against the crab player. She had completely ruined the crab player's board position to the point that he was forced to bring Quesada in with 0 fate because there was just no point in putting fate on him. Yeah, I felt awful because again, like there are games where you hit an opponent's province and you break their province and they ditch their champion and you just feel terrible in single core because it's such a blow to morale. When you see your champion get ditched, it's awful. And the Fearsome Mystic just bossed the board against so many people. And the other card I was completely wrong about was the Hatamoto Courtier, which I think is a constructed quality card,
really?
based on the power of the Courtier cards. The Courtier cards, the conflicts are amazing. And I don't think the Seppin guard is really up to much at all. But the Hatamoto Courtier, I think, is absolutely constructed playable purely on the basis of the power of the Courtier cards, which are super, super good. So those were 2 cards I was completely wrong about. Completely.
Interesting. Eoin, did you have any? Were there any cards that really caught you off guard?
No, I think most of them have some sort of place. I cut a lot of cards that I wasn't going to play. Good Omen was a little more unpredictable in performance because the way the metagame has kind of gone, where Good Omen is an amazing card when you can play it, but if you're playing a kind of a dishonorary setup as much as you'd like to use it, and you're always bidding low, it often gets to the stage from turn 2 onwards, you're both bidding 1, and then that good omen is just going to stick in your hand. And especially when you're both bidding 1, you're both only drawing 1 card. So it's a terrible card to draw because it's a dead draw for the turn, and you can get very little out of it. The favored niece Scorpion card is amazing for that reason, because in a low draw game, she lets you filter out bad draws or inappropriate draws for the time. And I think she's an absolute monster for that reason. She's a huge card for Scorpion for a low draw play style where you're going bid 1 every turn. She allows you to go, well, I'm actually getting a good card, or I'm making sure I'm getting the right card for the matchup.
Interesting.
She's a beast.
Interesting. Okay. And then...
Actually, but before we go on, I'd like to acknowledge that I made a complete mess with the Seeker and Keepers. I'm still good that on paper the Seeker is better, but the Keeper initiative just was everywhere in that second day. And from what I can tell, all the top 4 players were playing the Keeper initiative. Just getting a free character out with 1 extra fate on it, and being able to get them out every time they out of your discard as well as out your provinces is massive. So yeah, I was not expecting that, and watching the games and seeing how the Keepers performed, it was very impressive.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're amazing. They're especially amazing out of Crab, because you can keep throwing them on your funeral pyres and bringing them back turn after turn after turn. You know, just pile them on there.
Build it higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, but the Keeper initiative is stunning. It's a great card.
And speaking of Seekers and Keepers, were you involved in the decision for what to choose for your clan?
No, there were issues. There were organizational responsibilities that fell to me, because what I did was after 3 rounds on Friday, I bowed out, and I did a little bit of tried to be a bit of a support person then. And one of the things I did was there's a lot of dinners that are organized around Gencon, and there were people who were organizing those dinners who were still in the main event. So I said, look, I'll go look after that dinner. You keep playing. So I wasn't there for that discussion, but I'm perfectly happy with Keeper of Air for Crab. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah. And Justin, what did Phoenix take?
Phoenix took Secret Void. So basically the Phoenix get to play 2 Void provinces, gain a fate whenever they flip a fate province or flip a Void province. It's super good, because Phoenix want to play Kuroi Mori and want to play Shameful Display. They're probably the 2 best provinces in the game. Quite happy with it. I think Phoenix could also possibly have gone for Keeper of Fire. I think would have been a good one for Phoenix as well. But perfectly happy with what Phoenix took. Yeah.
And speaking of provinces, did you see a little sort of province meta evolve as the day went on, or as even the few days went on?
I'm not sure. I don't think there was really a metagame as far as that. But certainly the power of having actions, the power of being able to the power of defending well, and the power of having actions on your provinces certainly became apparent. So I think aggressive decks, which are dedicated more towards just beating your opponent's provinces in and going, may want to skew a bit more toward reaction. Just like provinces that do something when they're revealed on reaction. Whereas more defensively minded decks are probably going to benefit more from the action ones, the reusable ones. So I'm not sure if there was really a meta developing, but certainly having action abilities on your provinces if you're playing a defensive deck is significantly it's very, very powerful. You know, you just being able to get multiple uses out of those is very strong.
Yeah.
So. Also, if you can, having 2 provinces that are very difficult or very annoying to attack in your province display is actually very good. So stuff like having Pilgrimage or Defend the Wall and Crab or Meditations in the Tau or Shameful Display or Kuro Morai, which basically go, you don't want to attack this. You don't want to attack this one, but you've got to attack one of them, can be extraordinarily valuable for denying people getting soft rings. And they're just like, oh, I just don't want to go into that. This is just terrible.
That's a big one because a lot of people were saying Kuro Morai on the Stronghold province all the time, every time. Think things have changed a little bit?
Well, certainly I was playing Kuro Morai out in the wild. I put entrenched position under my stronghold simply on the basis that it was going to be hard to take anyway. You're looking at like a 12-7 province, which is rough going. And Kuro Morai just did far more for me by gaining an extra fate early in the game or by making provinces hard to take and forcing people into other provinces. And so basically allowing me to get, more from my get more resource return from my provinces because it was on the board. So I would certainly be happy. I'm certainly much happier. I was much happier playing Kuro Morai out as opposed to under my stronghold.
And no one flipped the table and told you were playing it wrong as you were reading them?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
those are sturdy tables.
There was some surprise a couple of times when I did get a couple of surprise comments, but I just have to say the games where it was out in under my provinces felt so much better and so much smoother than the games where it was under my stronghold. Because a lot of the time, people are never even going to get to your stronghold.
Yeah.
And there's and Phoenix can play so many obnoxious. Like, I mean, if you're playing Shameful and Kuro Morai, the chances are they're going to one of them. And if they don't break it the first time, it's just if they're forced, if you flip both of those and they're forced to come back into one of them at any stage in the game, it's just an awful feeling, or it must be an awful feeling for your opponent because I was feeling super happy that they had to. So.
I think
that's only me, and I could be completely wrong.
Oh.
I think that's also one of the reasons why going first on turn one is bad, in that you often have to make a very exposed attack with no backup, and if you hit the wrong kind of provinces, you get very badly set back. Whereas if you're basically attacking second, but your opponent's already attacked, so you get to make a choice about whether you defend or not. You go, oh, you hit my Shameful Display. Well, I'm all in on defense now because I'm just going to stop you. Or you hit one of my other provinces. I'm okay with letting that go, and I'll go try and take one of yours. Whereas if you're going first turn two, you can often commit just enough to go, okay, I hit Shameful, I got stopped, I'm going to hit Shameful my second challenge and kill it. And I think that's one of the reasons why going second is stronger than going first.
Right.
And I gather, was it the first day where they changed it and told us that the dice roll was to decide who goes first?
That was Friday.
Which I think is a terrible mistake. I think it's a terrible mistake. But yeah, so like in the rule book, it says you randomly determine who goes first, and it was round 2 or 3. They changed it to you randomly determine who chooses who goes first. As far as I know, everybody just decided to go second if they had a choice. I certainly did. When I won the role.
Do we know the reasoning? Do we know why they decided to do that?
No idea. I think it's a mistake. I think like going second is at the moment is actually better than going first. So I just feel happier if the whole thing is either way. But I don't know why they did it. It's an odd one. Again, especially as it specifically says in the rule book that randomly determine who goes first. Anyway, neither here nor there.
And in terms of swag, I see Eoin is modelling a little bit of it there. What was the gear like? But both the sort of the way elves and the full bleed artwork, and obviously the Hatamoto stuff too.
The full bleeds were nice. They were kind of good. They're going for crazy money. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
They're nice. I saw the gold honor tokens in the. I didn't see them in. I saw them in the display case, but I didn't see them in. I didn't handle them myself. They look nice.
They look good on the eBay. Photos. Yeah.
So I think the swag was quite good.
And what determined getting the gold tokens? It was sort of, how did that work out?
It was the most honorable clan on Friday. So the clan that had the higher honor in the most number of games that they played in. And I think that was Lion, because Lion start at 12 anyway. And Lion also, there weren't a lot of Lion players. There were a low number of Lion players, which contributed to that.
And there's an incentive for them to keep high honor for a couple of their characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so basically, slips on the Friday, there was a little box which asked which player was the most honored of the two, or the more honored of the two. So you had so basically all those numbers were tallied up, and then the numbers were divided by the number of players playing that clan. So you got an average for you got an average all game clan was more honored overall than its opponents, and Lion just won that.
And so then how many Lion did all Lion players get that?
All of them in the tournament.
Yeah, all the Lion.
It's quite a lot of
all the Lion players playing. Yeah.
Nice.
So I mean, but it's pretty good. Like it's an interesting little metagame decision as well. You know, do you want to play more honored? I mean, I don't think it's going to have a significant impact on how most competitive players play.
Sure.
But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the next over the next few tournaments. Like, will Lion consistently be the most honorable man? Because I mean, there were a couple of others.
Yeah, will Crane have their moment to shine once they've got all their shiny tools?
Yeah, absolutely. Will Scorpion end up being the most honorable clan simply because everybody ends up lower than them? Not necessarily because they're high, just because everybody else is lower. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. So it'd be interesting to see if there is a pattern there, or if it's just. I mean, obviously, at the first tournament, it'd be easy to draw conclusions based on a very limited data set. So something to watch for the future, for sure.
So Great Lakes is saying there was 17 Lion in total, so it doesn't seem like very many. But
Lion were not a popular clan there. But they had they the good players made a pretty strong showing. Like Tim Wells, who's a former Gencon winner, he was tearing it up. He made Hatamoto on day one and made top 16 or 8. I'm not sure which on Saturday. So there was some very strong players there.
Yeah. And the Hatamoto Stefan, what's your review?
Big fan of playmat. The badge is really cool. The fact that I got given a smaller pin to hand out when somebody beats me at a local tournament, and I will get given another pin for the player, or the other players who beat me at events get a pin as well. So that's really cool. The token box for getting Hatamoto twice, I saw, like, it looks cool. It's token box, you know. So yeah, it's the price support was good. It was it's different to playing old 5-4, and it's better than I think a lot of their other price support for the moment, because they're doing the big launch of 5-4, so it's more interesting. And they've said that I was talking to some of them about a little bit about OP, and they were mentioning that they're hoping to keep it kind of, you know, good and aggressive, and, you know, do interesting stuff with it. So, you know, going forward, it should be good.
Cool. And go on.
I saw from images that they also had some swag that you could pick up. So they had those clan-specific mats, that we'd seen before in the Facebook Live game. A lot of people also had T-shirts. Were they available for sale, or were they something that they handed out?
There was a generic
Available for sale.
War T-shirt, but there was the clan ones weren't on sale.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
They were staff only, FFG staff only.
Cool.
Yeah. And oh yeah, so the other thing I want to ask was there was some extensive debate on Facebook about the ethics and honorability of of selling your merch on eBay. I was just laughing at Justin rolling his eyes as I bring up the topic. The one of our lovely Facebook mods. What? Anyone have any strong views on the topic?
So I think as long
for a couple of days.
I think as long as the winners don't sell any of their prizes in character, we're fine.
Look, if people want to buy stuff, and people want to sell stuff, it's grand. I mean, the thing is that most of the swag is just, kind of, this is slightly cool stuff. Some people really like full bleeds, and I'm not going to complain if somebody wants to buy full bleeds. Like if someone wants to, like the Stone Seeker and Keeper tokens, they're really cool, but if someone wants to sell it, sure. It's not like you want it yourself, and it's a small enough community that you're not going to kind of be able to pass yourself off as, well, yes, I won this,
Yeah.
So grand. If
I think
people want to buy it, people want to buy it.
Yeah, I think this is one of the big role clashes between the old 5R community and one of the many feared cultural clashes between the old 5R community and the L community. Because, I mean, traditionally, FFG has provided alt art cards and, special unique items for other games like Android and Game of Thrones and stuff like that. And those have had significant kind of dollar value on the secondary market. Whereas with, old Five Rings was all about card support, which a lot of the top players didn't need because they had all the cards already because they used them to win the tournament. So, yeah, I mean, I've absolutely zero problem with people selling stuff that they've won.
And traditionally, in old 5R, the money was normally exchanged in the form of bounties for storyline prizes.
Yeah,
which is possibly even worse.
Yeah, I mean, like absolutely, you're putting like a role playing veneer on it and going, yeah, look, this monetary transaction is completely in character. It's absolutely in keeping.
I'm giving him some cocktail.
But as soon as you bring eBay into it, people completely explode. So yeah, it does kind of upset me when I see people going on their little in-character rants about, this person has no honor, for selling such and such. You would like to reach through the internet and just shake them gently for a couple of minutes until they, come to sense. No, if you win it, they have every right in the world to sell it. And the thing is, if the person buying it, if someone is paying out serious money for these, and some people have been paying out serious money for these things, it's because that item is going to a loving home where it is going to be treasured, whereas the person who won it may have completely different priorities. I mean, they may be selling it to get to another tournament, so this kind of moral referendum on people selling, bits of stone and bits of card and, bits of plastic, it does seem a little ludicrous to me, I have to say.
I mean, I think one of the criticisms that I found a little weird was people saying, like, oh, if he's selling his Hatamoto playmat, he obviously doesn't care about being Hatamoto. And I was like, well, actually, it's probably because the thing he cares about is the title and not, the playmat, It was just sort of a weird extension of, oh, he's selling a playmat there, I'm going to make all these set of judgments about this person based on this one thing he's done. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just an extension of just shitty internet behavior. It's just finding another app.
Yeah.
So I think in part it's a case, like, for me personally, I didn't go over to Gencon. if I had made it, I doubt I would have played at the level that would have been required to Hatamoto. So I'm actually quite jealous of those people. Maybe not Owen, who's crab. I mean, that's a suffering all by itself. But those 8 Dragon Hatamoto, I'm very jealous of. And to see one of those guys sell it, it would make feels for me. So I can understand where people are coming from. But yeah, I mean, it's the reality is people who did a good job deserve got those awards as prizes, not as ball and chains that they have to lug around for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, quite literally in the case of
as
of the rocks,
of the rocks, which is like, oh, I'm over my baggage allowance. This is actually costing me money.
Another thing worth mentioning is that I think the L5R LCG group on Facebook, is it at 2,000 people yet?
Oh yes. Oh god, yes.
So you're good. If even 1% of people have a tendency to turn into a werewolf and start flaming at people, I mean, you're going to get
200 trolls.
It's becoming a real issue in that there are a certain amount of people who, if they can, would like to stir up trouble. They just they have fun doing that. And as you get up to 2,000 people, if even 1% of people are like that, that means you've got 20 people on there looking to cause trouble. And that's going to be a real factor going forward. As we've gotten more popular, we haven't identified all the werewolves yet.
Yeah, we're taking a slightly more hardline approach to that after the last kind of couple of weeks. Yeah, 2,196 members at the moment. So,
wow.
Yeah. The numbers absolutely exploded over the last month or so. Absolutely exploded. So.
Yeah. And so a few other sort of bits and pieces, maybe just to get your view on World Championships. The winner will get the title of Shogun, which is pretty badass. Baz, do you wanna chime in on that?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I've got no words. Shogun.
Just. And I thought one of the cool things was the Emperor's Favor sort of mini game, if you want to call it that. So that the hull will be decked out in dragon colors, which I'm really curious to see what they do for that. Oh, and you've got I guess a reserved seat for that now. Will you be able to make the trip?
Plan is to go. I really need to know what the details are, though, yet, and the details aren't out yet. So I'm looking at flights. Flights are the guts of 500 at the moment. I'd like to book them while they're still 500, and then I have the fun of flying into Minnesota in November. So, if I can actually, because I'm worried about stuff like, well, I'm going to fly home the next day for work. How early should I leave? What are the chances of my airport getting snowed in? Because, that's a factor. So it'd be great to know a little more details about when the Alpha War is on during that weekend, because it's from about Wednesday, I think. So it's kind of a spread from Wednesday to Sunday. So I'd like to know when it's on, and hopefully they will have announcements about that soon.
Yep. Although it is my experience that places like that are actually exceptionally good at dealing with bad weather. It's just this part of the world that we're terrible at it. unless it's actively bad at the time. If it's just has snowed, they're deal with it. It's amazing. Justin, Baz, would you consider going either with or without a Hatamoto in front of your name?
I don't know. I've had a really hectic several last weeks, and I've got a really hectic month or so coming up as well. So I'm not sure if I would. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I certainly wouldn't go with. I wouldn't go without the Hatamoto title.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about it on the way back from work today, and I'll look at it. I'll consider it if I'd managed to somehow snag a Hatamoto over L5R Honored over the weekend. But even then, I mean, I know there were discussions about, kind of selling the prizes and what you could do with it. And I honestly think if I had the money to make the trip over, I could probably find something that would be more productive in my life to spend it on, even though I'm sure it'd be a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
So I'll consider deeply if I manage to get an invite. If I don't, I won't be burdened by that concern.
Yeah.
I'll have to see how badly I suck at this game too. So.
Yeah. So other bits and pieces of news. So they came out with the release date of 5th of October. I'm curious, did you guys come home with 3 sets, or through sort of dealing, or just getting them, or are you still short?
Through the power of queuing. We went in on. So basically, we got up at 7 o'clock. Was it, Owen? On Thursday maybe. Oh no, it was 6, wasn't it? Was it 6 or half 6?
8 at 7.
Oh.
Be there.
Yeah, that's right.
From 8, and then we queued for 2 hours. Got through the doors, queued for another hour and a half, and they allowed us buy two sets each, which is fairly insane.
That sounds horrendous.
Yeah. It was
It was a lot of queuing. If you were not cool with queuing, I wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they brought their 10-foot wall of L5R product and sold out by mid Thursday morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was selling pretty well. So I brought back 2 sets, but I had friends who had already claimed the sets if I got any extra. So that was a bit fun.
Sure.
I got 3. I've left 1 in its shrink because I'm going to get 1 this weekend. So I will do something with it. I'm not sure what yet.
Yeah, well, there's one.
You could open it and give your other set to me.
Yeah.
No. So it's interesting. I've been talking to the local store here and about launch tournaments and stuff. Will it be the weekend after the 5th? And they're sort of reluctant to commit to that based on their history with FFG and shipping dates and getting stuff in time. I don't know if you guys have had experience about that.
So I've often watched products be loaded onto the ship on the FFG's upcoming page, and then wondered exactly what kind of ship it took for 6 months to go around from wherever it was to wherever it needed to go. Sometimes their estimated dates can be optimistic at best.
Yeah.
But I guess part of it is at this stage, no one really expects the product to arrive when they say it's going to arrive, which means no one's as upset. So I can understand why the shop would be concerned by, actually putting it finally down for the 5th. But I don't know. They seem to be on track so far, and to be slightly controversial, judging by the comments of all of the other LCGs. L5R seems to be the main focus for FFG at the moment. So, I think they'll make that 5th of October.
Yeah, we'll see for how long that remains the case, though. It does seem something of FFG's policy of it does move from shiny thing to new shiny thing a little bit.
Can be.
Only thing I'll say is they own L5R lock, stock, and barrel. They're not paying a license fee to LucasArts or to George R. R. Martin. So I can see them saying, well, actually, we might make more on this one than we do on something else.
Yeah.
So I can see L5R still getting a good push for a while because its margins probably don't need to be as extreme as Star Wars or Game of Thrones would need to be.
And this is only the start. I mean, this is going to be the first of many games in Rokugan, which is
that's quite
interesting. I think Team Covenant in one of their podcasts recently were describing this as a lifestyle game, and I think that's where we're going to be going with this.
Yeah, I agree.
And I guess the other thing that sort of it got a little bit teased during Gencon, but that we've seen the post since then is the first Dynasty pack on a Tengu's Tears. And I guess there was quite a few little.
Surely.
What?
Right? Amaratsu's Tears, not on a Tengu's Tears.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Amaratsu.
I got the show notes wrong. And if the show notes are wrong, I just read what's wrong. It's that's how it is. I just read what's on the Google lock.
Yeah, you're spoiling the next pack.
Yeah, exactly. That's shit. I'm gonna ruin my NDA. So yeah, there was obviously quite a few interesting things teased in that. What was the standard for you, Justin?
There were two. Katie, because she looks amazing. Amazing art, amazing card. And Goblin Sneaks, because it might have Shadowlands. And if it does, then I will be super, super happy.
First card of the deck.
Yeah, pretty well. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So I mean, I'm just hoping that if Goblin Sneaks is in it, it might just set the precedent. Well, it would be certainly hugely reassuring for both Shadowlands players and Corrupt players generally that FFG isn't going to be ignoring their, small, weedy sort of cries in the wilderness. That they are actually going to get some support and see some of the really kind of badass stuff that they're used to seeing. So the Goblin is super exciting, and K-Day is just jaw-dropping, but we'll maybe get to her on the next show.
Yeah, that Goblin is going to be a bit of a test because, at least when I was originally playing, it wasn't so much corrupt and honorable players; it was good players and honorable players because the corrupt cards were just better. And when you had a clear distinction like that, where if you were playing bad cards,
it's a moral choice. It's a moral choice, Baz.
So yeah, this is the thing. We'll have to see how they go with this. If they put it into a position where it's a choice between corrupting your deck or weakening your deck, I don't know. I don't like that as much because it just encourages players to play corrupt decks. But
I agree. I would very much like to see it as a completely different style of deck, but that has strengths and weaknesses, as it should, because in the old game it was either horrifically strong or horrifically weak. It was either just way better or way, way worse, just depending on the card pool at the time. And you're absolutely right. So I really hope they do strike an efficient and effective balance.
How do you
obviously
do that?
the thing. Well, the thing we've seen so far, certainly what we've seen from the single core, is that Dishonor is absolutely a real force in this environment. It's a big deal. So honor losses in this game, I think, are going to be far more potent and important than they were in old 5R. And I also can't imagine FFG ever printing a card like Wind's Truth. So there we go.
And yeah, I mean, people were pushing themselves to the very limits of Dishonor with just Assassinate and Bonsai. If you're adding in, if there's a Dishonor loss on those Goblin Sneaks, but it's possibly worthwhile balancing it out, do they stop playing Assassination? Do they stop playing Bonsai? Do they play them all and really push it to the wire? Yeah, that could work. That could be interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and the thing is, it opens up space for a Shadowlands role. So at the moment, we've got the Keeper and Seeker roles, and I could absolutely see a role that says, you reduce your honor losses from Shadowlands cards by 1 or 2 or whatever, depending on how they cost the Shadowlands cards. So you could actually, so in that case, you could actually have a Shadowlands deck that does not get to take advantage of the other Seeker and Keeper things, but does get to do its own specific thing and take advantage of a different subset of cards in a unique way.
Whoever picked that role, they're going to be outside the back, cornered by a bunch of players.
See the thing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it would be an official role card.
All players would have to.
But I just, but I
can see people jumping faction just for that reason. They won't dishonor the Dragon Clan, or
there would have to be a few, there would have to be a few conditions on that card. I mean, obviously, I don't think I would see it. You would probably you could use it instead of a Seeker or Keeper. I don't see them ever changing the Seeker and Keeper kind of as the main line, the main line choices, like the orthodox choices. But they may offer something like a Shadowlands role card that you could play in place of a Seeker or Keeper. Like this card takes the place without ever having to force an entire clan to play Corrupt, which would be terrible.
It does offer
hilarious to see the reaction.
Yeah, no. I mean, because if you could force an entire clan, that would just become the single biggest troll card in the history of Five Rings overnight.
Yeah.
Something
You
worth
would
striving
instantly have people. Oh, you would have people playing the clans they hate the most. Just on that off chance, that tiny chance that finally you were going to see.
I would play the hell out of Phoenix, and I would keep them 100% honorable.
Anyway, but that's
yeah. And Owen, what do you think of the expanding on the sort of keeper only and seeker only sort of theme?
Increasingly interesting. One of the things because it's interesting because we're looking at these ones and going, wow, I don't think Lion can play Time of War, which is their seeker role only card. And that's, it's the one I said to people who were like, which should we pick? And I said, look, whichever one you pick will ultimately be the wrong one. Don't worry about it too much. So there maybe not that optimal choices there. However, there are a couple of caveats to that. And one of them is that they've said that the unchosen seekers or keepers will have a role to play later on. So it's possible after Worlds, they're going to say, okay, the 3 seekers or the 2 keepers and the 1 seeker that weren't chosen at Worlds are now wildcards that anybody can play. Or they might go, and now we're going to put up a new set of seekers and a different type of seeker or keeper in the next expansion. So they have options here that they can play with. I know some people were forecasting doom a little bit and go, oh God, some idiot's going to pick Keeper of Void for my clan, and then I won't be able to use this broken card that works with Seeker of Air or something. And look, I'd say I'm assuming they've thought about this and they've gone on, okay, well, we're going to have a couple of pressure release valves. And the thing is, because of the influence mechanic, even if there's no Lion Seekers, people who are influencing in Lion, who are using Seeker, can look at that card and go, oh, cool, we can play that. And that's an interesting little wrinkle on clan loyalty. So it'll be very interesting to see how it works out. And as we get more information, and probably after Worlds, when we start to see how they're going to handle Seeker and Keeper later on.
Yeah. One of the big things for me on that is that it artificially limits the card pool. So it allows FFG to continue print cards, but we're only allowed to play a certain number at any point, and that number of cards changes and switches. So it's almost like a kind of mini rotation within the card pool every 6 months, every 12 months, which I really like the idea of. One of the things I'm doing here at the moment is I'm slowly pulling apart all my Netrunner decks so I can file them away, unfortunately, for the foreseeable future, I think. But it's a massive card pool, and half the cards, I think I've only read them once, taken them out of the box. If that card pool was smaller, it would be a lot more enjoyable, and I think maybe the community would be a lot more active. And I think this might be a intentional approach by FFG to help keep that card pool manageable without going straight into a rotation system.
Yeah.
They should still do a rotation system.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things this does bring up is, they've said that the keepers and seekers are going to be changing once every year. That might be too slow.
Yeah.
I certainly, at the moment, I would certainly feel a lot happier about seeing seekers and keepers change every 6 months. I think, keeping seeker, basically being locked into your role for an entire year, like a year is a long, long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So maybe 6 months, because when you take a look at it, like what is it? Android is 4 years old now, give or take. So. Yeah. So basically, just to draw a comparison, if you've been playing since the beginning of Netrunner, then your role would have changed 4 times, and that's not a huge amount of change for an awfully long time to be playing. So maybe, I don't know. Again, obviously, this is something that I'm sure they'll be looking at, but a year seems like a really long time. 6 months.
And you're not locked into a clan in Netrunner. You're more likely to be kind of bouncing all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what
anyway,
is there any other opportunity? I mean, there's Worlds every year. Is there anything else that they could do that would?
There will be the Grand Kotais, which we aren't sure what they are exactly, but the Grand Kotais are going to be the really big tournaments, and there are also going to be Kotais. So there are opportunities there for other things to happen.
Yeah, so I think probably the Kotais will be the equivalent of regional events or national events, and the Grand Kotais will probably be the equivalent of like the X-Wing Open Series. So you'll have maybe 8 of them a year between. Yeah, you probably have them eight of them a year across the globe, and they'll be the big ones. But again, only a guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think sort of next time around we'll go into depth on some of the cards I've seen, and hopefully maybe there'll have been a few more sort of spoilers. So close to time, I think we can talk that. All you guys are going to be at the Honoured event, and Andy as well. So if anyone is going, I'm sure just come say hi. I'm not, unfortunately. I'm at a wedding. So I'll be, thinking of L5R in the church. It's not my wedding.
Oh, good.
Because then you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys looking forward to that? Is it kind of... Are you L5'd out after Gencon, or are you sort of ready to go again?
Oh, totally ready.
Yeah.
I'm
absolutely. In fact,
see all the European players we didn't see at Gencon. It's going to be marvelous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Myself and Gunnar get to lead the bonsais. It's going to be great.
Oh, nice. And quite a few Irish people coming out for that as well, so that'll be cool to see. And Baz, for you, first time round.
I'm definitely excited for it. I have to admit, this week has been a bit of an L5R lull for me because there hasn't been an exciting new release to kind of go through and cards to analyze, which is weird. Like waiting until December for that extra pack to come out is a bit strange. Also the fact that this will realistically be my kind of probably only chance this year to have a shot at Hatamoto, and I think the numbers indicate that only 4 people are going to make it out. And from seeing some of the people who said are going to be going, it's going to be a lot of fun to meet people, but there's going to be a lot of competition. I'm kind of looking forward to the games being over and the pressure being off, so I can actually just enjoy it.
Nice, cool.
Yeah. It's going to be super casual. So casual, just a fun event, and we'll get to hang out. By the way, extraordinary stakes online.
I just on that note, Owen, what was the 4-0 table like? Was there a sort of palpable?
I was sitting there, and the guy sits down opposite me with one of the world's best mustaches. It is waxed to perfection, and I'm like, okay, weird. And he's playing Crane. I'm like, okay, can't lose to a Crane player. Just can't do it, man. Can't do it. I gotta win this one. I made a lot of promises to myself for forfeits I'd do if I won. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. I'll definitely go to Worlds. I've got a couple other things I'll promise I'll do. I'm gonna win this game. I'm gonna focus up now and play your best, play well. And I played reasonably well. And the guy's like, oh man, yeah, you got me that time. Shook his hand. He flipped his bat. He was like, by the way, you read any of the fictions? And I'm like, yeah, all of them. He says, I say I wrote the Phoenix one. I said, wait a minute, flip around that name badge as Rob Denton. And I'm like, I never met the guy in person before. So I was having a word with him, and I was asking him, would he be interested in coming on Imperial Advisor? We'd had Dave Latterow on, and he said he'd be really happy to. So I'll
awesome.
have a word with him about that later on, see if he'll come on, chat to us about
Justin can grill him on all of the imperfections in that story.
Oh, no, that's... I would not.
That was a pretty good story, to be fair. It'll actually be fun talking to him if he comes on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But no. Just no. It would be wrong to grill him. I mean, I'll certainly ask him questions, but grilling, that's maybe.
I like broiling.
Maybe.
Broil,
yeah.
And
we'll just see. We'll just see how it goes. Like I'll turn on the grill. Like I'll turn it. We'll just see how it goes.
It's not a grill. It's a waffle iron. It's totally different.
Yeah.
And I think to wrap up, it is the most important moment of the show. Owen, do you have a beaver fact for us?
Yeah, the giant beaver lived about 3 million to up to 10,000 years ago and grew to be over 8 feet long, making it a particularly large rodent.
That is a big ass beaver.
That is a big ass beaver.
Size, you might even say.
What was that, Justin?
A rodent of unusual size, you might even say.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Precisely.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. That was really enjoyable hearing the war stories. I look forward to seeing you all next weekend. Maybe. Well, don't know what we'll do, but we'll get a photo if not anything interactive media-wise, and I think probably the first time we've all been together in quite a long time.
Yes.
So looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks guys. Nigel, thanks to all the guys in chat for Great Lakes and Jester and all the people sort of Moto Subutai and all the people sort of chipping in. It's really good. And yeah, Nigel.
Okay. Night all.
Bye.
Right.